Hello, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Poetry of Painting. Another episode this week with another very special guest. So I hope you enjoy a bit of talk about poetry, art, and probably books, and goodness knows what else might come into our heads. So my wonderful guest this week is Roz Ottery, who's joining us again. Let me bring Roz into this chat here. Hi, Roz. How are you?
I'm very well, Fiona. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for coming back on the show. I've been looking forward to hearing some more of your poetry.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming to the book launch as well. I was just amazed. It was so good.
Yeah.
Everybody seemed to really enjoy it, and just absolutely fabulous. And for your
It,
contributions to the book as well, your wonderful poetry. So,
well, it was very exciting for me to hear other people because I haven't always caught your shows, and to hear the others doing their poetry as well. It lives, doesn't it? When the poet actually says the words, it lives. I was really impressed. I loved it. I think it's going to be a smashing book.
Excellent, thank you. Well, it's still in the printing process at the moment, so anybody that's watching and hasn't got their book yet, it is all in hand. You will be getting them. Just slight bit of patience required, so apologies for that, but they will be coming out to you as soon as I can possibly manage that. So and I'm not giving a figure yet for the amount we raised for the charity Alzheimer's Research UK, because until we've got the books and we've done the postage and everything for the rewards on the pledges, I don't have the final figure. So I hate to say a figure and then it's wrong, especially if I said too much, and I'd rather say less and then it was more. But anyway, so I will be letting everybody know that figure in due course. So, we've got Chris. Hello, Fiona. Hello, Roz. Lovely to be with you both again. And he said it was lovely to see so many poets on the book launch. It was absolutely. And people who may do some poetry as well, but are not one of my poets in on the shows. If they would like to be, then they just need to let me know. That'd be great. So, Roz, how have you been keeping? Have you been doing lots of poetry? I know you've obviously been doing one poem for a certain painting, but have you had much time for poetry lately, or just being
Well,
kept busy?
there are a couple of things really. I've always written when things are tough. Writing has always been part of the stabilization of my life, and we have had some sort of quite difficult times. I mean, everybody has, haven't they? The country's a bit in uproar in various
Yes.
ways, and we're retired, so there isn't there's a finite amount coming in. So we've been trying to rearrange things and make things better. So basically, it's been quite a few weeks of uproar and trying to make sure that the future is secure, because we're quite sort of dependable, straight people. So we don't like anything that isn't particularly secure. So poetry is something that I write, and it helps me with those stressful times. Now, I don't keep all of it. Some of it I just write for my own personal pleasure, and then there's other bits which I catch an idea and I go with the idea and it inspires me. And those poems I keep. The one that I'm going to read you this evening is one of those poems. So I'm hoping that everybody else likes it as much as I enjoy writing it.
Well, if any of the rest of your poems have been anything to go by, I'm sure we will love it.
I hope
And
so.
so it's interesting as well that you're using poetry as therapy at times as well, which
Absolutely.
it presumably that you can lose yourself in the ideas and the words and just escape from reality for a while into your own little world. Is that a fair assessment? Or
I think for me, there is a release from stress in using words to pinpoint certain feelings. The difficulty is that as I've always written in that way, but when I was young, when I was a child and I wrote poetry, I would keep those poems as something that I would perhaps think, well, I would use that later as some kind of potential published work. I wouldn't do that. Now I tend to leave those more personal things as a therapeutic process. Now, out of that comes certain things. Tonight's poem, when I explain it to you, you will see there's a crossover, but it isn't indulgent. It's something that created something within me that I think is more artistic than indulgent. So.
Lovely, lovely. And obviously to everybody who's watching, if you'd like to ask questions about Roz and her process and the poetry or art, or make comments, please do. That would be lovely. So Roz, I won't interrupt you anymore. I shall let you tell us the story of your poem.
Okay. Well, as I said, this was a process for me, but I hope it isn't indulgent. So with this piece, Fiona, it was an exact mirror image. I don't know whether or not you've got the piece up. It was a stunning piece of work, I thought.
Thank you.
But it combines opposites of separate mediums. So the high sky and the low earth, the air, the water, the light emerging from the dawn. You know, it's very striking, very haunting, I thought. Beautiful and intriguing. All of those words came to mind when I saw this poem, this picture. And I've experienced places like that. I've been very lucky in my life, and I've experienced places like that in my life. And so the painting drew me back into places where I've already been. And what happened was that I remembered that when I had been in those places, it gave me a boost. There is something about not just countryside, but views that boost the human spirit. And so what occurred to me was that on reflection, these opposites that are in that painting are not just physical. It transcends that, and it goes to reside in the medium of your own being. And so when, for instance, when you're sad, it uplifts you. So we're not just talking about sky and the reflection in the water. We're actually talking about something that you can actually absorb into you. So that's what inspired the poem. So my poem took this shape as a reflective piece, and had a fair amount of me in it. So no stick has one end. We need these contrasts for things to exist. And I was intrigued at all, by all that. So the poem, I began choosing words that I thought reflected this opposites mirror feeling. So I chose the word deep for some of the first lines of the poem, and I chose the word high because both of those reflected what I felt. And some of the verses start with deep, some of the verses start with high. And once the physical composition had been done, I then realized that I could actually echo that in the rhyming. So the rhyming structure has got two different rhymes in it. One, the high verse has a sort of line, the first line and the third line that rhymes, and the low and the deep verse has the opposite. So it all sort of it all sort of mirrored, and it sounds very contrived, but it wasn't. It actually came out of this feeling that it actually echoes every piece of the art, of the being, of the physicality of the world. So all of that happened, and once I got that done, I then rewrote and rewrote until I actually got the being as well. So I'm hoping that comes across. Let's see if it does.
Right.
It's been quite a hard few weeks here, so this was an interesting climb from the low to the high. And this poem is only 2 verses long, but it actually encompasses all of that. So this is the poem. Deep in my heart is the lake of my soul. Deep past the surface, confounding the eye. Deep as this water lies the cool, silent home, as deep as the light that reflects in the sky. Then, high is this peace, and it makes me courageous, high like the awe that the heavens once gave us. High hopes in the grace of this beauty, this art, so high it's revealed, and it restores my cold heart. Deep is the colour from out the night drawn. Deep is the wisdom in the mirror of thought. Deep twixt the sapphire and the marigold dawn. As deep as my wonder as this moment is caught. Then, high are the heights of such burgeoning passion. High is the burning of all love and compassion. High comes the knowledge, all will pass, then be gone. So high, refreshed will that inspires me on.
Wow. Absolutely beautiful, Roz. Absolutely gorgeous. I think, actually, could you read it again for us? Because
yes.
it was so lovely, and there were just some wonderful lines in it that, and as it's not too long, if you would, that would be brilliant.
It's a bit of a tongue twister. So I'll try and be slow. I just don't want to be boring, that's all.
No, it's beautiful.
Deep in my heart is the lake of my soul. Deep past the surface, confounding the eye. Deep as this water lies the cool, silent whole, as deep as the light that reflects in this sky. Then high is the peace, and it makes me courageous, high like the awe that the heavens once gave us. High hopes in the grace of this beauty, this art, so high it's revealed, and it restores my cold heart. Deep is the colour from out the night drawn. Deep is the wisdom in this mirror of thought. Deep twixt the sapphire and marigold dawn, as deep as my wonder as this moment is caught. Then, high are the heights of such burgeoning passion. High is the burning of all love and compassion. High comes the knowledge, all will pass, then be gone. So high, reflected will, so high, refreshed will that inspires me on. I'll read that again, that last verse. High are the heights of such burgeoning passion. High is the burning of all love and compassion. High comes the knowledge, all will pass, then be gone. So high, refreshed will that inspires me on.
Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous, Roz. Thank you so much. Really, that is wonderful.
I loved writing this. I enjoyed the poem, I really did, and I just love the picture.
Oh, thank you. Well, this one actually was a slight challenge because it was a photograph that Ritesh took, who's also been on my show, as you know, and it was from one of his very early cycle rides in the mornings, and a lake fairly near to where he lives, I believe. And he'd written a poem about it and then challenged me to do a painting from his photograph and
Wow.
poem, inspired by both. So this is the result, and it's oil on gold leaf on canvas. So the gold leaf peeks through the paint there. And in fact, there are 2 videos on my YouTube channel showing a very speeded up painting of this. So it's the first half and second half, about 3.5 minutes each, I think. So you can see the whole painting being completed from absolute beginnings through to the end in a total of about 7 minutes. I have to say it does take me a little bit longer than that to actually paint it in real life.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So, well, Chris said, beautiful poem and benefited from a second reading. Thank you, Chris. I really thought so too. Absolutely gorgeous, Roz. So if anybody's just started watching and didn't hear Roz reading her poem, watch it on the replay afterwards and listen to this gorgeous poem being read by Roz. Absolutely fantastic. And as I said, do feel free to make some comments and ask questions. So, oh, that was wonderful, Roz. Brilliant indeed.
Well, I mean, the poem is only 2 verses. It doesn't take long to read it, but it did take me quite a while to write it. And again, that's quite unusual for me, because sometimes I get an idea and I'm just off with it. But this took a bit of getting into, because I had to do layers, because there is quite a high part of me in that poem. And that's always a risk.
It becomes very personal and private in a way, I should think, as well, when it is so personal.
But I believe very often that as human beings, if we can cross that bridge, then and reach each other with something that has truth in it or authenticity, then I think that can only really enhance the world rather than diminish it.
Yes, absolutely. And we're all vulnerable in different ways.
Absolutely.
We all need understanding and the compassion that you spoke about in your poem. And, knowing that somebody else is going through something that you've been through, or, it enables you to have that compassion, or to allow them to feel that they're not the only one going through it at the moment. And, to help them to feel loved and maybe understood to a degree. We can't always, we can't understand exactly what someone else is thinking, obviously, but, to go as far as we can to try and understand, and to offer them support, encouragement, whatever they need, really. So
I really honestly think that we're getting better at understanding that vulnerability is not a choice. Vulnerability is actually our way of being. Once you are born, flesh and blood, you are vulnerable. Nobody is. We're all vulnerable. That's the whole point. And to hide it is actually a bit of a fib. It's a bit like the cool that teenagers get, because they don't want to show vulnerability. But that's because they believe if they do, someone else will think that they're wrong for it.
Yeah, and it's not a weakness. Vulnerability is not a weakness.
It's actually a way of being. That's who we are. We're vulnerable because we're flesh and blood, and to a certain extent, I think that the more honest we are about that, and I don't mean sort of putting all your personal business everywhere. That's completely something that I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing. But I do think that authenticity is probably the greatest gift that we can give ourselves, our children, and the world. And that's why I think the false news that happens sometimes with press and all the rest of it is a little bit. You've got to be very careful, because it's very damaging.
Yes,
it's not authentic, which is unfortunate. Really, we don't know where we are, do we? With that, that's the difficulty.
Absolutely. And if you say that about this country, goodness, some of the other countries around the world,
Absolutely.
It's far worse than it is here. So
it is. It truly is.
Yeah. Something. If we all try to be more authentic and more understanding of other people, it's like mental health. Mental health. When people have issues, it's not a weakness. It's not something to be ashamed of. So many people have it and hide it, and then end up with far worse problems because they won't admit, to needing some help, or just needing some care.
It's degrees. It's degrees. We all have mental health, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and it's degrees of where you are at the time in your life. And you think, oh, that may never happen to me, but of course it happens to everybody. If you can be the healthiest person in your mind that you could possibly be, and then your partner dies, and you certainly will not be, not for quite a time. Grief, all the things that life throws at us is supposed to make us break. It's supposed to change. We have to break.
Yes. So, and people that aren't vulnerable, or don't consider themselves to be vulnerable, or don't have these feelings, in a way, that's something that's not quite right because they
Well,
don't have the compassion. If they're like that and they don't feel vulnerable, they don't feel compassion for anybody else, then that's a bit of a strange personality, isn't it?
well, I think that I think it's reasonably well documented that compassion is something we're born with. However, life circumstance and learning, and some people's poor life in the beginning of their
Mm.
life can alter that, especially for a baby or a child, because they're so malleable. So there will be people that do, there is that nature nurture debate. And so and I'm not clever enough to know what is what. In fact, I don't think anybody is.
Mm.
but I do know that compassion is one of our basic gifts. That's what makes us human a lot of the time is the compassion that we have, and not
Yes.
to be muddled with sentimentality,
Mm.
because pictures of cute kittens are not compassion. There's something
No.
completely different. But compassion is bone deep, and I've noticed people say that human beings are terrible, and we've certainly done quite a bad job of looking after the world. But that very often is because we're trying to fit in or not standing up for who we know we are. And so
Mm.
that's my point. I just think we need to be as authentic as we can, understand our vulnerability, understand our compassion, and move forward as best we can. That's all we can do, really. Keep your little
Absolutely.
bit as clean as it can possibly be.
Yeah, yeah. And all the little steps. I'm not mentioning a particular supermarket's phrase, but all the little steps add up to something bigger. If we
They
can
do,
all
yeah,
do little
absolutely.
things, they all add up to something else. And even just little acts of kindness to somebody. Just
Kind, kind is the
yeah,
most important
just
gift. It really is.
yes, yes. Just somebody is you know a pound short for something when they're desperate to get on the bus to get home. Just paying that pound for them or something. When
Yeah,
you've got the pound and it's not your last pound in the world, sort of thing. But just small acts can mean so much to somebody,
it certainly
and
can.
and
And
they
the reward of that is huge because
mm,
they play that forward. Whereas
yeah,
if we limit that, it doesn't go out in the world and create big waves of kindness. It goes out and causes people's hearts to sort of feel cold and unloved, and that's not a good thing for anybody.
no. It's like the ripples of a pebble going into the pond. The ripples spread outwards and affect so many more
Absolutely,
people than just that one person who was the
absolutely,
recipient of an act of kindness. So yeah, yeah, very
exactly.
important.
And to bring
Mm,
that back to the poetry and the painting, that's exactly why painting art that inspired something in me, a memory of what it has been for me. That views of any kind in that way, they're so beautiful, and that
mm,
is one of them. Lakes, especially,
yeah,
I like things that combine sort of lakes or trees or things that create what I consider to be beauty. So those things are really important for people to see. The world would be
yes.
such a sad place without art of any kind.
Absolutely, absolutely, it would. And without art of so many different styles and genres and things that we have in the world, there's just so much out there, that it's
Yeah.
wonderful to come across new artists, see what they're doing, just amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Have
So
you seen or heard of that immersive experience, which is the Van Gogh exhibition? It's an immersive
yes,
experience. Well,
I
I
haven't
caught
seen
that.
it. I haven't seen
I
it, but
caught it in Bradford a couple of weeks ago, and I enjoy his paintings. I do enjoy them. I've always done so, but he's not like my favorite artist. It's just somebody that I've always admired. And I you sit in a room, and these things are projected on the walls, on the ceiling, on the floor to incredible music, and it made me
yeah.
cry. I absolutely sobbed. It was beautiful. beautiful.
Oh,
It really, really
wonderful.
gets to you. It's
Yes.
worth going.
I think they've got several things like that going at the moment, which I've seen videos of them, and I think you must get to see that. But it's with the book and everything, it's been such a busy time. I've not really had a chance to do anything much else like that for a while. But I know from what people have said, yes, they've been absolutely fantastic. So yeah. Just to mention the book there in passing again, obviously, trying to raise as much money for Alzheimer's research as we can. The book is available via my website and from my shop. If you just go onto my website, it's FionaHooper.com. I'll put the link in the comments afterwards, and you can order the book through my shop there. And all the book sales going forwards, 20% of profit will all be going to the Alzheimer's research, as well as the money that we've already being given by so many generous, wonderful people. So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience, and it's not over yet because we're still raising more money with every book sale. So,
and the book has full pages of the paintings, which are stunning, and the poetry that goes with it. It's such a lovely book to have on your coffee table or have somewhere in your home. A brilliant for Christmas presents. Really brilliant.
Absolutely fantastic Christmas present, and the styles of poetry in it as well is so varied, different, and quite a few different styles of painting as well. Some are slightly older works, so lots of things to look and read and just dip into now and then. You don't have to sit and read it from cover to cover. Just dip into little bits here and there, and just something to uplift you during the day. And yeah,
you've only got to look at the two behind you, Fiona, to know that this is a really quality publication. It really is. I'm definitely going to send some to my friends and family who I know they'll love it.
Well, we have had the sample book here. I haven't got the full book yet, but this was just a sample book of just a very few pages. And this one, because it was produced earlier, it doesn't have the fact on the front that we have the foreword written by Annika Rice, which I was just so delighted about. So that's a sort of sample of the pages with a painting and the poetry. And let's find another one. So here's a good example with a painting full size there, some extra artwork and the poetry. So just some wonderful contributions. And of course the next book I've already got my eyes set on that one, but it won't be for a little while yet. Let's give this one a chance to run first. And
you'll need a rest,
I'm planning
Fiona.
that one will be well, I will, but I'm planning that one will be very similar in format, but with the difference that it'll be my paintings still, and it will have 2 poems by other people. So like yourself, Roz, and all my other poets. That'd be fantastic. So that's the plan for the next one, hopefully, and hopefully raise more money for charity in the process as well. So we're looking forward to that. Chris said, oh, it's brilliant. He said, oh, sorry, I'm not quite sure what he was talking about there. He said, well said, Roz, I know what to get my other half now. I think he might have meant the book. Maybe.
I hope he meant the book.
Yeah. And then, and he said next book with about 4 or 5 question marks. I think there might well be one, Chris. I think there might. But as Roz said, there's going to be a little bit of a rest from publishing in the meantime. So we've got a way to go to get all the rest of the poetry done for that one as well. So, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll get there. It's great fun. And just, thanks to Ritesh for all his amazing publishing skills and ideas. It's raised so much money into the process as well. Oh, the book for a Christmas present. Yes, Chris, absolutely. So, Roz, I can't believe that we are nearly at our time already. It seems like about 2 minutes has gone by. And thank you so much for writing another wonderful poem about one of my paintings. Really appreciate that. And you can look forward to another poem being in another book now as well.
No, I hope so.
Absolutely. So thank you to everybody else for watching as well, whether you're watching us live or on replay. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and if you've got any comments or questions, please put them down and we will get back to you as soon as we can. And if you've got any suggestions, or if you'd like to come on and be a poet on my show yourself, just let me know as well. So don't be shy, just tell me, and we'll see what we can do. So Roz, thank you so much. Take care. Have a wonderful evening, and I will speak to you very soon. Hopefully back on the show again very soon.
Oh, it'd be lovely. Thank you, Fiona. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, Roz. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Bye, Roz. Bye.